course, we start looking at what students are you going to test? And then we issue vouchers that will allow them to take practice tests. And then there's a voucher for them to take the certification tests. So there's kind of like 3 parts of that wheel to get the students certified. And as far as setting them up, Florida specific, you know, it all starts with a contract, which starts with a schedule. And then that's what we build the course on, and that's how we add the instructors. But that has to be in place first. And then for Florida, we issue the equipment to the schools, which includes the 3D printer. If you're doing the second CAD course, there's a CNC router. And then there's a few odds and ends that are issued with those things. But that's the main pieces for the course.
Okay, and I think Terry, maybe we didn't mention that when we purchased that from Certiport, it's actually for, I believe, 2 practice tests, the test and 1 retest, is it not?
Yeah, I think it's more practice tests than that, like a lot more. But I'm not, I without looking it up, I couldn't give you an exact number, but yes, they have an opportunity to take several practice tests.
Joel?
It's 2 practice tests, but you can take them multiple times.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way that works, and by the way, everybody, I'm recording this in hopes that people who didn't make it will watch it, or if you want to re-reference it. Those 2, so Autodesk, and Terry, I'll cut back to you when I'm done here. So there's you have to realize what mouth. No, that's wrong. You have to realize what cup you're drinking out of here. Okay. The program that we'll be using is furnished by Autodesk. The same way Autodesk you should look at like Microsoft, but you don't actually use Microsoft. What you use is a program within that, Excel or Word or PowerPoint. And the program within Autodesk is called Fusion 360. Simply put, okay? Fusion 360 is a cloud-based computer-aided design program. And the reason, and that is the chief reason that we can use almost any platform to access it. And I could talk about access here in a little bit. So that's what Fusion 360 is. That is the competency that we're looking to gain. Certiport, actually, I think it's just Certiport in this case because they bought a company called Pearson VUE. Certiport offers the Fusion 360 user level certification exam. It's a very important word there, user, okay? Because there are other certification exams that they also offer in Fusion 360, but this is the user certification. And that's certification that we're all going for in year 1. When you buy that package from Certiport that Terry was just telling us about, we either purchase for you or we recommend to you, Andrew, that you guys buy the test plus the retest. When your school system purchases that package, it'll ask you, you buy the test. It'll say, do you want the retest too? Okay, cha-ching, cost just went up. And then it'll say, do you want practice tests too? Okay, cha-ching, cost just went up again. The practice tests, on the other hand, though you purchase them through the Certiport purchase, you have to download a program called Gmetrics, right? Now, though Fusion 360 will run on any kind of platform, Gmetrics will only run on a PC, or at least it used to only run on a PC, at least a year ago, right? So Gmetrics, you have to install that to access the practice tests. So it gets a little complicated. Now we have just one player called Autodesk Fusion 360. Now we have 3. We have Autodesk, we have Certiport, and now we have Gmetrics, okay? Then the last player is something called Solid Professor. Solid Professor is the online training program that we purchased. And the reason we purchased Solid Professor was because that was what Autodesk recommended a long time ago. And that was the class that we purchased, so your students will log on to Autodesk. I'm sorry, your students will log on to Solid Professor to go through the online training. So let me just restate all of that in another way. Let's talk about usernames and passwords, okay? Your students are going to need a username and a password to access Fusion 360. So they'll get that from Autodesk, and that'll be at no charge. That's free. Your students are going to need a username and a password to access Solid Professor, which is the online training that they'll go through. Okay. And that is something that if you're in the state of Florida, the Gates Aerospace Institute pays for. And if you're outside the state of Florida, Andrew, either your school system already has a contract with Solid Professor, or they will contract with Solid Professor, you know, based on us recommending, and we'll see to it that you get the Florida price for it. And they'll contract that for the number of kids. The reason, Andrew and Dean, the reason we don't have to purchase Solid Professor accounts for you guys is because you're bringing your students with you. So the school system charges us for your students. They do not charge us for you, which is the reason that you can have an account right now and we don't have to worry about any of the bookkeeping. The third username and password your students are going to need is going to be one that they're going to have to log on to Gmetrics for in order to take the practice tests. You correct me wherever I'm wrong here, Joel. So they'll need a third username and password for that. And then finally, your students, each one is going to need a fourth username and password to log into Certiport in order to take their tests. So what we have just discussed is the single hardest part of the entire course. Administering students who have to have four different user accounts with each having their own password. Okay. My recommendation is, and you're not supposed to do this, and I know we're being recorded. My recommendation is, as the professor, that you do two things. One, you physically make them write down on a piece of paper what their username and passwords are for their accounts. And then two, you make a copy of that piece of paper and you keep it for when they lose it. That's my recommendation. A lot of them are going to want to put it in their phone. You'd be surprised how many times that doesn't work out. But Joel can tell us a little bit more about how he administers it here in a second. So that is that. So Terry, could you just tell us about how you get for the state of Florida, because this is what you're going to have to do what Terry does, Andrew, but for New Jersey. So can you tell us about Solid Professor's access codes and how they come to you and all the rest of that stuff, please?
Sure. So I get a quote from Solid Professor. We do a purchase order for it. They send you an email with a whole batch of access codes, and then you have online access to manage your access codes, because that is also how you create your testing access codes. So I basically just keep spreadsheets of access codes, and as I assign them, you know, I check off who they're assigned to. And then when it's time for testing, you have to go into your online account and create those testing vouchers, and then it issues codes to you, and you download those and send them off to the instructor.
But going in and creating those, that's through Certiport. That's not through Solid Professor, correct?
Correct. Solid Professor just comes as a batch.
Right.
They basically just email them to me. The testing, the practice tests and the final tests, those are vouchers that you actually create online. You'll have an inventory in your account, and then you convert it to, you know, 30 access codes or whatever you need. And then you download those access code numbers to send to the instructor.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that?
When you download these and send to the instructor, I'm not sure who's downloading them to who and who's going to give them to the instructor.
For the Florida schools, I create them and download them, and I send them to the instructor.
Okay.
Now
10th grade.
that's the solid professor and the Certiport.
Right,
Right.
because we actually have some schools that have district accounts. They don't use ours.
Right.
It's kind of a circus in the beginning to see who's doing what. And so we've only been doing this a couple of years, so every time I'm pulling out my little cheat sheet to see how we create these codes. But yeah, it's really, at the beginning of the year, you're getting the solid professor codes, and then at the end of the year, you're getting the testing codes.
Okay. Joel, you're in the on deck circle here. Okay, so what we're talking about is clearly based on the number of usernames and passwords, the number of software that we're using, you can see there are many, many, many moving parts. And the mistake is to try to start running before all these administrative matters are taken care of. So Joel, you've been down this road before, and your program always gets out of the blocks before any of the rest of the programs because you do it exceedingly well. What can you tell Andrew and Doug and John about getting this program started up in the first week so it runs in the second week?
Okay. First, and I ran into this problem for the first time this year. My school district locked everything down in terms of software that you can put onto the computers, and also teacher access to computers as an administrator. If you are able to have administrative rights to your lab, please ask for those and set yourself up as an administrator. It will make your life a lot easier when there's updates to the software or something like that. So in my situation, all four of these programs that are required on the computer or computer use with the students had to be cleared with my district. So if you have that issue going on with your district where everything has to be approved prior to student having access to it, you should do that tomorrow, honestly, because get that ball rolling. So what you'll need is students will have to have access to Fusion 360 and have to make an account for that. Students will have to have access to Solid Professor and have to make an account for that. Those are the first two that you'll need. The other two is later in the year, but let's go ahead and do everything all at one time. But those are the first two that you have to have basically right at the beginning of school. Compass, Certiport Compass is going to be the testing platform. That will not be required until you actually test. And Gmetrics is going to be the software that the students are going to use to practice for the test. And that's going to be needed prior to your testing, but probably a month or so prior to testing. So first thing, make sure that all those things are approved by your district and you can get them on the computers. Ask if you can get administrative rights. I used to, I don't have it anymore. It makes my life a lot more difficult. In terms of approaching how to do the SolidWorks, the Solid Professor and the Fusion 360, what I always do is I create a Word document. And let's say, for example, Solid Professor. To set up the Solid Professor accounts, I set up a Word document and I go and I cut and paste the instructions for the students how to create the Solid Professor account. And someplace in that document, usually at the top, I set it up as a Word document because I can import information from a database. And so I import all the voucher codes that Terry is going to send to us. And so what I have created is I've created a document that I can hand to every student, and it has their own voucher code on it. And also on that document, I have student username, student password. And I have the student, when they create that account, they have the document, they have the voucher on the document, they fill in their student name, they fill in their student password, and they give that back to me. And then I take that document and I put it in the notebook and I have it for the rest of the year. And that covers what Sam was suggesting, that you record those things. And that's just how I do it. It takes a little bit of time. I'm not real computer savvy. It takes me a little bit of time, and always have to remember how to import an Excel sheet into a Word document. I'm happy to share, those documents that I have. And, but that's how I do it. Just makes it easier that way. But the biggest thing is make sure that you can get the software on your computers, that they have access to it. And if that's something that you need permission, then you need to start that now. The frustrating part, this is an example, I'm in Polk County. The frustrating part is the school pays for Solid Professor. And you would think that they would have vetted Solid Professor if they're going to write a check to go ahead and allow students to take that course. But if they haven't vetted the software, even if they paid for it, the students still won't have access to it. So just because it's been approved as a course doesn't necessarily mean that the software is approved for student use. So just watch out for that catch-22.
All right, I put a couple of notes in the meeting chat for you guys to kind of help you along. Thanks for that, Joel. Terry, we only have 2 teachers on right now, and you're real good about telling me what you need from the ones who aren't there, but do you have everything you need from Andrew and Dean with respect to activation forms and resumes?
Andrew, I think is fine. He's returning. I don't think I need anything from him. Dean, I'm not sure. Let me try and look real quick.
Okay.
Because I know he's new, so I'm not sure if I have everything from him yet.
He sent them to me and I sent them on to you. Or I sent them on to Jeffrey.
Okay. So Jeff Bispo may have them.
Yeah, I know. Dean gave them to me and I did forward them. So I don't know who's got them now.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have his paperwork, but I can check with Jeff and see if he has it.
And John, I think there was some question. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
I think there was some question as to how many classes we had for Highlands County next year. Are you just handling the Highlands Aviation Academy, or are you handling the county as well?
It would be the county as well, but as far as I know, there's nobody else doing it.
Okay, that's right, because Mike Harris is not doing it. There's only one class in year 1 being taught at the Highlands Aviation Academy next year, just one section. I think you froze. Okay. So while we wait for John to get back, let me tell you a little bit about the equipment that we need to teach this class. And Joel, you can feel free to pick up anything that I miss. If you're now, Andrew, this is what we're going to issue the Florida classrooms. They've already been issued, but we're going to expect, and Karen knows this, we're going to expect the New Jersey classrooms to at least try to comply with this. Okay. In no particular order, the first thing we're going to issue you is something we call a Space Mouse. Looks like this. This one happens to be a wireless one. I recommend this is mine. I recommend buying the wired one, the one that plugs into USB. You'll find it's much more responsive with less hiccups. Okay, John, you're back. I was just verifying with you that all we have on for Highlands County next year is one class.
Right, and Mike Harris does Fusion 360, but he does it in a different platform. So I'm confirming that tomorrow that he's not doing anything with Embry Riddle's program that we have outlined. So
Okay.
at this point, until you hear differently, it's just the ones we're doing at the Sebring Airport.
Okay. John, we were talking about equipment, and I was just telling everybody that
I listened to all what you said. I got it.
Okay, got it. So that's a Space Mouse. Now, your students what we recommend is a CAD mouse, just CAD mouse, right? Now that sounds expensive, but it isn't. We've been paying $29.99 for a CAD mouse every year. And what is the difference between a CAD mouse and a regular mouse? Well, first of all, the CAD mice that we issue our students aren't wireless, they're corded. And we find that works out better. They go disappearing a lot less since they're corded. But a CAD mouse is basically the difference between a CAD mouse and a basic mouse is a CAD mouse is going to have a scroll wheel on top, and it's usually going to have a couple of buttons on the side. That is the only difference. And we have been paying about $29.99 a piece for those. Andrew, I don't care which one you buy, but I'll definitely send you the make and model of the space mouse that we use. But if you want me to send you the make and model of the CAD mouse, I'll just get it from Terry. Okay.
And is the space mouse for the instructor and then the CAD mouse for the kids?
Yes, and what you'll find out is you can't do it with just a space mouse. You'll actually need a CAD mouse for yourself. I love this one. This is a Logitech one. It's a little bit more high end. I think I paid $80 for it, but I love it. It's fantastic. Okay. The third thing that we are going to is a 3D printer. Currently, the 3D printer that we issue, and I'll get you the make and model on it. It was a good 3D printer 2 years ago. They still make it now, but I'm sure there's an updated version. Terry, if you know the name, make and model of the 3D printer, if you could put that in the chat, that'd be great. If not, just send it to me as an email and I'll forward it to everybody. And then what kind of computer and chipset? All right. A PC, I do everything on, I use both an Apple and a PC. I use a PC at work. I use an Apple here at home. Andrew, you have PCs in your classroom, I want to say? Okay. And John, I want to say you have PCs in your classroom as well.
Yeah. We've got everything that worked last year, so we're fine.
Okay,
the only challenge
great.
we have is the internet access is sometimes.
Well, a PC is definitely the best way to go, and the reason is Fusion's pretty much identical on both, with the exception that PC you're going to be able to run Gmetrics on, and an Apple machine you are not going to be able to run Gmetrics on. So that's fairly significant. And as long as the PC's there, I think we're going to be fine. So I won't belabor the point, but I will bring this up. It is possible to run this class on one monitor only. That is not what we recommend. We recommend that you have at least 2 monitors. And Andrew, I talked to Karen about this, right? We recommend that you have 2 monitors. And the reason is because you have Fusion 360, you're working in Fusion 360 on one monitor and you're running Solid Professor on the other monitor that's showing you what to do in Fusion 360. You could split screen it, but you're definitely going to have diminished abilities compared to if you have 2 monitors. So having a PC strong enough to run whatever the system requirements are for a PC, and they're not arduous, but having a PC that can also run 2 screens at one time is fairly important. Does anybody have any questions about equipment?
I was just going to comment, if you don't have 2 monitors, you're really handicapping yourself and your students. You really want the 2 monitors. It's going to help a lot.
Yeah.
And if your students are going to test someplace other than your lab, which I can imagine why it would, but hopefully it doesn't. Whatever the conditions of how they're going to test, that's how they should prepare for the test itself. So if they have only 1 monitor, then they should practice with just 1. But for the course, 2 monitors is the best way to go.
Sam, I had a question about the Space Mouse. What is the I guess need for the instructors to have the Space Mouse as opposed to the students having CAD mice?
I'll let Joel answer that. I think he could do a better job than me.
Okay.
Efficiency, really. It's a nice piece of equipment. The students aren't going to use it, but it's really nice for efficiency. And in your preparation, because I found that as a instructor, if you do not understand how to use Fusion 360, and if you don't understand how the parts are built, then your students aren't either. And having that space mouse is going to save you time in your preparation, and it's kind of fun to work with too. A little bit of time though.
Yeah.
It's sensitive. It's real sensitive at the beginning. So
Joel, can you teach the class competently without it?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you can teach it without it.
It is. If you want to buy one for yourself, they're about $150. Again, if I had to do it all over again, I would have bought the corded one instead of the wireless one.
We have a corded one, yeah.
Yeah.
Corded.
Yeah, I have a corded one at my desk at school. It works. It's much more. I like it. It's the same exact mouse. I just like it a lot more than the uncorded one, than the wireless one. So,
Yeah.
What's the make of the Space Mouse?
3D connection, all one word. That's let me put it.
You guys read that?
There you go. I just chatted it out. Yep.
Yep.
3D connection. And they make all kinds of mice. I mean, the Space Mouse, the one that you're looking at is pretty much the Junior Weenie Hut version. You can buy one of these things at $700 or $800 and can pretty much launch missiles from Melbourne if you want. But yeah, it's very, very simple.
Go
ahead.
One thing that are we done with the equipment and everything? Any questions about equipment?
We're good.
I would say in terms of preparation for July 15
Yeah,
through
that's what I was going
17,
to go to next.
you're going to want to work through as much as you can the solid professor course. I know that when I first approached this a couple of years ago, my goal was to finish the course before I got to Daytona. I think I did. I'm not sure. If not, I was very close. The more you have done, the more you're familiar with Solid Professor, the better you will benefit, the more benefit you'll get from the weekend.
Yeah.
Because then we can walk you through it. There's a couple things. Can you share screens, Sam?
Absolutely.
Because I've got Solid Professor open and I'll just.
There you go. Let me just say this while Joel's working that out. So last year, and this isn't, it's going to sound an awful lot like a threat. It's not, it's just how Joel and I have conferred because we kind of team teach the Fusion 360 course. Last year, there's no way we can get through what we need to get through in 3 days, but we don't want to ask for more time than that. So unfortunately, one of our teachers, through no fault of his own, got the word only a week before that he was going to our class. So he showed up completely tabula rasa. And last year, as a result, Joel and I retarded the course so he could keep up with it. This year, after talking about it, so the choice became where to cut the baby. Do we make everybody else not get the training they need in order to include this gentleman? And we decided to do that. We're not going to do that this year. There is a pace. We're going to maintain that pace. And again, it sounds a lot like a threat, but in the name of keeping everybody else, getting everybody else properly educated, there's a pace. We're going to maintain that pace. And for the teacher that may have been unfortunate like the other one, we're not going to slow down. I don't know any other way to say it. So, all right, Joel, back to you.
So I just wanted to give you a little bit of navigation on this, just because if this is what you're going to see when you sign in, and you'll want to come over to the library and you'll come down to Fusion 360 and go ahead and select the 2022. That's the version that you're going to have. And I think it's the first one. You just want from beginner to certification. And you see it's 8 hours, 49 minutes. Okay. That's just the total of all the videos and things like that. I'll go ahead and open this up.
Yeah, in your estimation, Joel, yeah, that's just adding up the videos. In your estimation, what is a realistic allotment of time? Between now and July 15th, I would say 90 minutes to 120 minutes, 5 days a week. What would you say?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
yeah.
And you'll find and if you approach it where the way this is set up is there's a video involved and then you do the exercise. And I don't see any reason to take notes or anything during the video, but you need to pay attention. It's not like you can have the video. Listen, there's no penalty. If you want to just skip to the exercises, you can. I don't think that I think you can just skip right on through it. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to watch and you want to pay attention to that. Actually, the exercises, he's very monotone, hard to listen to, but very informative. And you just literally walk through the exercises. What I would suggest, because it's going to make it easier when you teach it in the fall and in the spring, set up a file in your computer and set up a folder for each section, and then download, because each of the exercises has a PDF. And so just go ahead and download that PDF while you're doing the course and drop it into your file. And then when you work the part, drop it into your file or drop it into your folder. Then when you start teaching the course, you don't have to try to find all the stuff. It's already in place. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3. If you do it that way, I think you're going to save some time. Yep. One thing that I remember last year, because we had the solid professor come and talk to us, did a video thing, and they showed us these the answers to some of the information, and Sam and I kind of looked at each other like, wow, we wish we had that, because they don't tell you if you're right or wrong. They don't tell you what the answer is. If you go over here to where your name is and do a drop down, and there's a practice exercises, if you click here, you'll go down to Autodesk Fusion 360, and you'll see some of the assemblies and sketching and stuff like that. So if I just open this up, there's your assemblies, your joint motions, stuff like that. It's just showing these are the different exercises. Okay, so that stuff is there. As much as anything, I'm just going to close this.
And we're going to take you through this again.
Yeah.
In July. Okay.
But if you know about it now, then while you're doing your exercises and you're like, I don't really know what the answer should be or what it should look like, you may find it here.
Mm-hmm. Joel, maybe when you're done talking, you can just in the chat window just kind of give a procedural description of how to access the answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. I don't need to share my computer anymore. I think that was it. I just wanted to show you you can go to the library, and it looks like my computer's freezing on me. You can go to the library, and that's where you find the course. And you can come over here to documents and practice exercises, and that's where you can get some answers.
Joel, are you logged into Canvas?
To Canvas? No.
Okay. Could you I am. Could you describe the Canvas site that we've set up for Fusion 360, please?
Sure. So what you'll have in the Canvas is you'll have access. You will have access, not your students. So it's not anything that you're going to let your students have access to. But what is in the Canvas is all the exercises that the instructors have worked. We put the information there, so you always have access to that. If you have any questions or anything like that, that's there. When we start doing the aviation part of this course, Sam will drop and have some slides. We'll have the PowerPoints and stuff like that. So the PowerPoints will already be created for you for the aviation part of this course. One thing nice about this course is everything,
see-
you don't have to come up with lesson plans.
You can see my
Our
canvas?
professor- I'm sorry?
You can see my canvas now?
No, not really.
No?
No,
Stop,
here, let me
so
stop
stop.
share.
Yeah, stop
There you
sharing.
go. Yeah.
All right, let me do that again. Okay, now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so here's Fusion 360, right up here, Aviation Technical Design 1. Go ahead, Joel. Joel, I think you're muted. Can anyone hear Joel? Because I can't.
No, he's muted.
Yeah, we
Sorry
can't
about
hear you.
that, folks.
All right, there you go.
So, Sam, if you'll go ahead and open module 1. So this is basically how we have this set up, or Sam has really set this up. And he has you'll see where it says 5A, 5B, 5C. Those are Solid Professor exercises. So these are the exercises that would be associated with the skill set that the students would need in order to complete the aviation challenge that they would have. And in this situation, for the module 1, for last year, it was Class Bravo Airspace. And what the students had to do is they had to import a canvas into Fusion 360. The canvas was a sectional chart. And then the students had to scale the airspace for airports in and around Class Bravo airspace. We use Tampa because that's closest to us. There's some of the schools that participated last year, they used Fort Lauderdale or they used Miami. And what I did was I had the students, they did Tampa International, and they did, I think it was like 10 or 12 airports around Tampa International. And what they have to do is they have to make a 3D model that to scale. And it's the lateral and the height scale were different because if you made it to scale, it'd be so short, it'd be like a pancake. So we stretched it out to the top. But the skill set that was required for that only went up to part 8 or section 8 of Solid Professor. So this is basically how we have it set up. And if you clicked on any of those, like the doorstop or something like that, where it says an F3D file, that is the actual part that has been built and posted. Whether Sam built that or whether I built that or whether one of the other instructors built that, that's going to be real helpful for you if you're having a hard time building it. And, so you have it there. And one thing that you'll find with Fusion 360, you can open this up and you can step back through the timeline to see how it was built. So.
And there's also, so this is how this is just there. You don't need to use it. Your class can go through the Solid Professor and kind of get there on your own. But there's another section called, let's see, where's the
Speed parts?
No, not speed parts. We'll get there in a sec, but templates, design, and guidelines. Didn't we have something called Sam's Answers or something like that?
Was that in the other one though, or is that in this one?
I don't know. I can't remember. But here you go. Practice exercises solved.
Here we go.
And here are all the ones that have actually been. See, here are all the practice exercises. If you catch yourself behind or whatever, you haven't had time to do it. We have all the practice exercises solved the way we solved them as F3D files already for you.
Yeah.
So, and when you come up to Daytona Beach or down in July, we will spend time reviewing. You will get a briefing from Solid Professor, their rep. We'll spend time reviewing a lot of time on the canvas. Terry will be working with us to get any of your administrative requirements out of the way. And I'll be sending out an email here shortly showing you, before you show up, you should have these things done. right? To help you out. And again, it's just kind of prescriptive in nature in that, you know, we want to make the best use of your time when you come up there. So all these little things to get done. I can't stress enough, Andrew, you know, you got Karen running interference for you, and John is fighting the IT battle for you, Dean. Getting the IT people to break out of their security dogma and allow these things to happen. The updates, because Autodesk updates Fusion 360 about every 3 weeks, count on it, right? And what winds up happening is, and forgive me, Joel, if you already said this, if the student at home, if his or her computer updates and your computer in the classroom doesn't, because you're waiting on IT to approve it or greenlight it, then the project that the student worked on at home with the current update will not open on a legacy update that is waiting to be updated. So the student might have done a whole lot of work on it at home, and now they can't access it. So it's really, really important that as those updates roll in, that IT allows them to happen immediately. And that's something they need to understand.
Hey, Sam, how do we know, how will we be notified that there's an update?
One of your
Right.
students will come to school and say that they can't open their stuff,
Yep.
or it was updated. So it happens so frequently, Andrew, that I usually keep on my board what version is in the lab. And typically what happens, a student will come to school and they'll say, Mr. Bressler, the Autodesk updated. And then I'll say, okay. So I don't exactly know how our IT person has gotten it set up, but our IT person had to set up their own account with Autodesk so that they would get the notifications. And then what they do is I notify my IT person that there's been an update. He will go and check for the updates. He will download the update and then put it onto the server at the school. And then after school, I have to go to every computer individually and put it onto the computer. But and that is a pain, but it's much easier to deal with it that way than it is to have students be able to work on it at home or not work on it at home or half the stuff and things like that. And it took about 3 updates before the IT guy finally figured out his sequence. And I don't have access to him now. But if your IT people are having problems when we start the semester, I will try to get some kind of a menu or something from our IT person that I can share with you so that you can share it with your IT people so that they don't all have to figure out what this man had to figure out.
That'd be very helpful. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to show you guys what's going on, but I think my little computer is working a little too hard here. Let me see if I can show you guys what we mean. So so really the big takeaway from this Zoom meeting should be that you are not ahead of schedule. You are on schedule, and now is the time to, you know, so you don't wind up working at a fever pace. Now is the time to do things like make sure that you have, Andrew, have you registered for an educator's account yet?
Yes, I've got it on this computer that I'm on right now.
Fantastic, right? So yeah, install Fusion 360 on whatever home computer you have. talk to your administrator about getting you a space mouse. Bringing that space mouse home, because it is a skill that you will build up. Start doing the solid professor, all these things. Like I said, you are on schedule. You're not ahead of schedule. I'm trying to look if I can find. Oh, here we go. Okay, here's Fusion 360. You should be seeing just basically a blank page. And for those of you who are wondering about the update, as a matter of fact, you see, I'll show you guys something. You see this right up here where my mouse, here's my mouse. You see that one up there? That means that there is a product update coming out now. A new Fusion of 360 is landing. Click update now. And that's exactly, like I said, about every 3 weeks. You can pretty much set your watch by it. They're going to come out with a new update. And if the student were to update his or her stuff at home and then want to come into your classroom and work on it even more, they wouldn't be able to if yours wasn't updated. So there's that.
The thing is it automatically updates. Now, it doesn't automatically update in the school labs because we have the block on it. But because it automatically updates, the students' computers at home automatically update, and that becomes the problem.
Yep.
Hey, Joel. So I talked to Sam about this. So students' computers at home, are we our students are issued a Chromebook. And I've already started working on making sure we can get the download on the Chromebook. Sam said that it was that it's like 85% access, like it's not the full thing, like it has most of the features but not all. So are you saying that a lot of the kids also that they have something like that, or it's their home computer that they do that?
Okay, home computer. So you're going to have a little bit of a different issue, because what I have is I actually have a computer lab at school that the students work with. Mm-hmm. Now, the students were issued computers this year. I don't know if they're Chromebooks or not. I don't think they are. But if you are using Chromebooks only, then when that update comes out, I don't know. My guess is your district is going to block that automatic update. So right. You may need to monitor how, like you might look for a newsletter or something like that from Autodesk that says there's an update coming out, so that you can then update your computers to keep them up to speed.
Just real quick, we will have a computer lab with the PCs, but in addition, every student in the entire school has a Chromebook. So I'll have both the issues. I'll have the school.
You're going to have both the issues. So the one with the computer lab, like I said, if you guys will remind me, because I won't remember, just remind me about the IT person and how does he do it, because he sends it to the server, and then from that point, then I have the ability to get it onto computers. I have a feeling that the Chromebooks are also, because I can't imagine that the IT people can't update the Chromebooks without having to put their hand on every one. So it may be something where he can put it on the server, and when the students are on the server at school, it updates or can update. I don't know that. You'll have to figure that one out.
Okay.
Yeah, but you'll have the issue with both.
Here's the deal with Chromebooks. When you run it on a PC or an Apple, you are running a program that has been installed onto the hard drive and is accessing the cloud for data. Period. End of story. You can see it's pretty responsive, right? So this, by the way, is one of our projects in year one. When you run it on a Chromebook, though, you are not doing it that way. You are running a virtual desktop. So you are not running an installed program to the extent that you are on a Mac or on a PC. It's really kind of going through a virtual desktop. So you're going to have a little bit of a program lag, and you're going to have about 85% of the functionality that you normally would on a PC or a Mac. So if they're taking the Chromebooks home, Andrew, they're not going to be able to do everything, but they will be able to continue to move forward as long as one of the things that they're trying to do isn't one of those higher functionalities. Typically, those higher functionalities are set up for, joints and assemblies and analyses, things like that. Nothing that they shouldn't be able to at least try to do, but you do lose a little bit of agility within the program. So it's definitely not the default. I wouldn't want my students doing it on Chromebooks in the classroom. What we do have is one of our professors, she doesn't have dual monitors on all of her screens, but all of her students, she does have PCs for everybody in her classroom, and all of her students are issued Chromebooks. So they run Solid Professor on the Chromebook, and they run Fusion 360 on the PC, and they basically have two different computers going on their desk to run the program.
Hey, Sam, another, and Joel, anybody, quick question. On this computer that I'm on, which is a laptop, when I have Fusion 360 on it, and I have this little bar that says this computer's graphics driver or hardware may be limiting performance. Is that the same thing as the Chromebook having limited, or is that a different thing?
No, it's different. The Chromebook is literally running on a virtual desktop. The Chromebook is making inputs to another computer that's actually running Fusion 360 on it. If you're running yours on a Mac, you're actually running Fusion 360 from your Mac, and you're probably just graphics limited. And there's all kinds of settings, and we'll go through this again, so you don't need to write it down, but you can come up here and you can go to preferences, and you'll see that there are all kinds of settings that pop up, especially when it comes to graphics right here, and you can address refresh rates and everything else that'll help your computer with that sort of thing. Really, if you really want to make it work good, what you do is you just I have a whole bunch of stuff running on my computer right now, but normally what I do is I shut everything down and I just run Fusion 360, because everything else is just going to be a distraction anyway, and I like to focus on what I'm doing when I'm using Fusion. Joel?
Can I
All
ask
right.
one more question? Are we gonna have Canvas access to it when we're down in July?
As long as you've kept Terry Bosma happy, you will have Canvas access.
Great, thank you.
She's the one. What do I mean by that? I mean, she has your activation form. She's been able to process that through the university. Keep in mind, a lot of our people are on vacation right now. So if you get something in now, it's a lot of times it takes us 3 or 4 weeks to get you that kind of access. But yeah. Be afraid of Terry. I am.
But if you have an Embry-Riddle account, you can be added to the Canvas course. So
Yeah.
I establish your account, but in order to get in the actual course, that's Janine. I don't know if she's doing that automatically, or you might need to ping her, but she can add anybody to the course that has a Embry-Riddle ID.
Yeah, I think I can too. Andrew,
You
I'll
can
try
prob-
that.
Yeah,
I'll try
you can probably invite them in, which might be quicker, but they have to have the Embry-Riddle ID first.
Yeah. Andrew, do you know if you're, I know it really depends on whether they've deleted you. You took a year away from us, so it really depends on
No,
whether they deleted you or
I
not.
reactivated him. He should be okay.
Okay, I'll add you as soon as we're done here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, that's about it. I'll be sending out an email to basically say to show up on these things, but really, and I'm sorry, I apologize for the broken record. The theme to the story is put in about 90 minutes a day, and you'll be glad you did. And if you like crossword puzzles, if you like puzzles of any kind, this is absolute therapy for you. you'll actually be very relaxed and happy after 90 minutes of playing with Fusion 360. You know, if you hate puzzles, well, you're not going to like it. Simple as that. So, all right. I've taken up enough of everybody's time. I'm going to stay on for anybody who has any additional questions, but as far as I'm concerned, we're done here. I want to just say thank you very much for your time. I'm stopping recording right now. Terry, thank you so much for dialing in. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Like I said, I'm here for anybody else who wants to continue to chat, but thanks for your time, and we'll see you in July, and be looking for some emails from me and the rest of the team, please. Thanks.
One of the things I'll need to do, I don't know whether we've done this, but Dean will not need to get a Embry-Riddle account so he can get into Canvas.
Yeah, I need his documentation. That's
Right.
what I'm waiting on, his activation form and resume.
All right, as soon as I get off the line here, I think I have a copy of it, and I'll forward it right to you, Terry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, see ya.
Thank you, everybody.
Sam, thank you. I'm sorry for the occasional 7-month-old babbling a little bit. Joel, I met you a couple of years ago when we did the boot camp.
I remember.
The AS 120. So great to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.